Flashy Flash, a hero who boasts unrivaled, godlike speed, finishes most of his battles in an instant, is ruthless in combat, has a big ego, and ultimately has his pride shattered when he suffers a devastating loss. Poseidon, a god who boasts unrivaled speed, astonishing even his fellow gods, finishes most of his battles in an instant, is ruthless in combat, has a big ego, and ultimately has his pride overcome when he suffers a devastating loss. It's no wonder that when I first brought up that I watch Record of Ragnarok, people immediately started suggesting this matchup to me. The characters share a lot in common and are both considered the speedsters of their verse, who don't boast about their abilities and let their actions speak for them. So I believe this to be a very fitting matchup. Really quickly, before we get into the video, I want to say a couple of things. Firstly, this video is very numbers heavy. I do quite a bit of calculating. There will be timestamps in the video, so if you want to skip over some of the sections of calculating and get straight to the result, you can just check the bar at the bottom of the video and fast forward through it. And without any further ado, let's hop straight into the video. In this video, I will be doing 2 rounds, one where Flashy Flash fights Poseidon as he is, and one where he gets a Volander. To anyone who is unaware, a Volander is a union between a human and a Valkyrie, where the Valkyrie turns into the ideal weapon for the human, giving them a divine weapon which can harm the gods. So for example, if Flashy Flash doesn't have the attack potency to damage Poseidon, the divine weapon would give him that attack potency, and if he can land attacks, he can damage Poseidon. And with another type of merger called Fates Intertwine, the Valkyrie and the human join their souls. This results in a massive boost of power for the human, so I'll be doing one round where Flashy Flash goes in without these benefits and one where he has these benefits. I'll be starting with Poseidon since I've never really covered a Record of Ragnarok on my channel before. However, I will avoid doing much in-universe scaling for him here because I want to do a video ranking all the gods at some point in the very near future. So I'll be saving all the in-universe arguments for that, aside from a few things that I need to measure Poseidon here. And without any further ado, let's jump into it. For Poseidon's speed, there are a couple of ways to go about measuring it. The first is to say that Apollo has lightspeed arrows, which are stated to be the fastest attack in heaven and only Zeus can stop them, therefore making Poseidon sub-lightspeed at best. However, I personally have some problems with this line of scaling, as the entire Apollo fight really felt like the author rushed through it as fast as they could. I don't know, it's just the impression I got. Like, it wasn't really polished much. I like the characters, but it's just that there are quite a few inconsistencies. I'll get into why I think all this in a video that I will eventually do, ranking all the gods, like I said, but for now, I will largely be ignoring that line of scaling and focusing where I actually think Poseidon should scale. Starting off, Poseidon is able to blitz Ares' perception, and he can also perception blitz the announcer of Ragnarok. Now you might be thinking, why is that important? Who is this random announcer guy that blitzing him is so impressive? Why is blitzing him important? Well, to cover that, we first have to cover Zeus. Zeus is able to dash in and throw a punch in 0.01 seconds, which is stated to be near light speed by the announcer. Taking that literally, Zeus should be somewhere between 1 and 99% the speed of light here. Then he goes on to throw an entire flurry of punches in this many seconds on some Flashy Flash versus Garo versus Platinum S timer energy, which is a time frame that is 1,000,000 times shorter than the first time frame, making Zeus at least 10,000 times faster than light if you think he went at 1% the speed of light, and almost 1,000,000 times faster than light if you think he went at 99% the speed of light in the first punch he threw. This is if you take the near light speed statement literally. It could just be hyperbole. I'll cover both ends, but for now let's just say that it isn't hyperbole. But getting back to the scaling, Zeus then goes on to get stronger and faster in the Adamas form. And as he attacks Adam, this random announcer is able to perceive the punches and give a play-by-play of how Zeus attacks Adam and how Adam counters. This announcer, this Chad, is able to see these people fighting at potentially hundreds of thousands of times the speed of light. And as soon as Poseidon gets serious and throws a full power jab, he completely blitzes the announcer, as the guy himself says that the strike was too fast to be seen by the naked eye. So Poseidon should be a blitz tier above Adama's Zeus. Using our previous values for Zeus's speed and the standard multiplier for a blitz, this would put Poseidon anywhere from around 50,000 times to around 5 million times the speed of light. And then we get to Poseidon's ultimate move, 40 Days of Flood, which is so insanely fast that Ares, who could easily perceive Zeus's strikes, only sees a dome of after images of Poseidon. Like seriously, if you think Saitama's serious sidesteps were impressive, just wait till you see this. Whereas Ares perfectly saw Zeus's flurry of blows, he cannot see Poseidon moving at all. He just sees a dome filled with Poseidons. And these are not just linear strikes like Zeus. Poseidon is darting around, going back and forth, side to side, up and down. He is occupying the entire ring, covering a distance that is hundreds, potentially thousands of times greater than the distance Zeus covered and Ares reacted to, based off of the height of Sasaki and the size of the ring, and then the size of the dome that Poseidon would be creating and how many Poseidons it would take to fill that dome. Yada yada yada. I won't bore you with the details too much. But yeah, this is extremely impressive. Depending on how you calculate this, you can get it anywhere between 10 million to almost a billion times faster than light. And this is sort of consistent when you remember that his opponent Kojiro needed the help of the entire universe and all of creation to see through these moves. But okay, maybe let's not be as crazy and say that the near light speed statement from the announcer was just hyperbole. I mean, a billion times faster than light seems like a bit of a stretch. So ignoring that, I calculated Zeus's initial jab to be around 6 meters in 0.01 seconds, which is 600 meters per second or around Mach 1.75. Base Zeus's full speed is throwing many jabs in this many seconds. That many jabs should be at least comparable to dashing the distance that he did in his initial punch on Adam and throwing one jab. So if Zeus's initial strike was 6 meters in 0.01 seconds, Zeus's flurry of punches should be 6 meters in, again, this many seconds. I'm not saying all those zeros, which should be around 600 million meters per second. The speed of light is 300 million meters per second, so Zeus's full power flurry should be around 2 times faster than light. Zeus then gets stronger and faster with Adamas, and Poseidon blitzes that with his strike, so he should at least be 10 times faster than light now. And with 40-day flood, Poseidon blitzes Ares and the announcer so badly that they only see a dome of Poseidons. Again, depending on how you calculate this, this could place Poseidon anywhere between 200 and 2,000 times the speed of light, or potentially even more. If you want to get ratty, and I mean really ratty, you could say Poseidon scales above Hajun, which he does at least in speed, and Hajun destroyed half of Helheim in a day. Helheim is always depicted as being the same size as Midgard, which is basically the living universe, as we have numerous references to the universe and the cosmos in the series, so Hajun must have traveled the length of half the universe in a day, actually more since he wouldn't just be going in a straight line. So if you want to use that, then the scaling just shoots up to ridiculous levels, but I will not be using that for this video or any video really. I don't think it's a valid way of scaling. But yeah, even without that, Poseidon should scale at least 200 times faster than light. Maybe if you really hate Poseidon, you could put him at 10 times the speed of light, but more consistently, he should be 200 to 2,000 times the speed of light, or potentially even almost a billion times the speed of light. It's pretty crazy. Moving on to attack potency, Poseidon is the most feared god of all and has various pieces of lore comparing him to Zeus. Overall, he should definitely be one of the stronger gods, so he should scale to gods like Thor, who is stated capable of destroying the earth, and Shiva, who is stated capable of burning down and rebuilding the world, as well as destroying worlds in general. Depending on what you think is meant by with the word world here, this could place Shiva at planetary or universal. Zeus is also stated capable of destroying heaven, which if you really hate Record of Ragnarok, you could say is maybe planetary, but more consistently should be universal in size as it is relative to the size of the living universe. Zeus is also stated capable of destroying and creating things from nothing, so this is pretty consistent. Hajun destroyed half of Helheim too, though I would say it's more so probably just meant to say he laid waste to the land, not completely erased half of the dimension. As we see, it's still the same size as Midgard and Heaven in all the images we get of the three worlds together. Zeus and every god older than him also lived through the Big Bang, though it is unclear if they just straight up tanked it or if they just observed it from another realm. I would more so be inclined to say that Zeus was probably in the fray as he found it to be thrilling, which he usually only does when he's involved somehow, but it's not too important here. So yeah, overall, Poseidon should have planetary to potentially universal attack potency and durability. And that is the power of Poseidon, the most feared god of all, the god of gods. But what about the fastest hero? Can he stand up to this? Well, let's just get this out of the way. He needs Volundr to stand a chance. At absolute best, with the highest of highball, saying Flashy Flash scales to full power Platinum S, and using the best calculations for Sage Centipede, Flashy Flash would scale a one-shot level below Sage, making him borderline small planet level. So the highest of highballs for Flashy Flash doesn't even reach the lowest of lowballs for Poseidon. Yeah, he needs a divine weapon here. Giving Flashy a divine weapon, he should be capable of damaging Poseidon, so it all comes down to if he could actually hit Poseidon and deal a lethal blow. To scale Flash's speed, we can use a few methods. Lowballing Platinum S and Garo's light constellation has been calced between 4 and 24 times the speed of light. Flashy Flash is below this, so he should only be 1, 2, maybe 3 at best times faster than light. There are some outlier calcs for this feat being thousands of times FTL, but those are few and far between. This is a very lowballed method and I don't think it's consistent with the narrative at all, as even casual slices from Atomic have been calced to around 4 times FTL, and Flashy is obviously a lot faster than that. So here I will give my complete scaling chain for the manga of One Punch Man up until the Flashy Flash vs Garo vs Platinum S fight. If you just want to skip to the result of Flashy speed, the time will be on the bar at the bottom of the video, but for those of you interested in hearing my thoughts, this is how I went about the whole thing. I will be going through the series and just looking at speed feats and upscaling from other speed feats pretty much. Anytime there is a blitz, there will be a 5 times increase in speed, as that is the approximate middle point for blitz multipliers, and I've been using that for videos for a while now, and I used it for Poseidon here too. So a blitz equals 5 times. Anytime there is a significant speed increase, but clearly not by a huge margin, I will give a 50% boost in speed, and if there is a very noticeable speed increase, I will grant a 2 times boost. Here are the rules. I know they're a little bit headcanon-y, but it's pretty much the best way I could go about this. So yeah, let's just go. Genos reacting to light beams over a distance has been calced to around 0.3 times the speed of light. Then he gets an upgrade with parts from the robot G4, which Kuseno says will make him stronger. Strength and speed usually go hand in hand in One Punch Man, so I will be applying that 50% increase, making Genos 0.4 times the speed of light. This is pretty consistent, as Awakened Cockroach says even if Genos hit him at the speed of light, he wouldn't touch him, implying that Genos wasn't fighting him at the speed of light up until that point, but was also impressive enough for Cockroach to consider that he might have some light speed attacks, so a relativistic speed is being implied here, I believe. Genos then gets another upgrade, which is stated to improve his basic functions, presumably speed, strength, durability, and so on. So another 50% boost is in order, getting Genos to around 0.7 times the speed of light. Garo fights this Genos while massively fatigued and is able to barely dodge his blasts at pretty close range, which could debatably be light speed, so this is pretty consistent. This Garo, who was relative to this Genos, then gets healed and receives a Zenkai boost as he always does. Considering how badly he was beaten and how much faster he would get from such beatdowns later on in the story, I will grant Garo a 2 times boost here, putting him at 1.4 times the speed of light. Then he fights Royal Ripper and has a bit of trouble, but after seeing his moves, Garo thinks that Ripper, in tandem with Bug God, will never hit him again, and only gets slashed because he gets distracted by Tario. Then when he heals, he outspeeds Ripper badly, but Ripper does still manage to get a stab in on his side. So overall, I used to say this is a blitz level increase, but upon further inspection, Garo was already significantly faster than Ripper before this increase, and after the increase, he did not just straight up perception blitz Ripper. So I think a 5 times boost would be way too much here. Maybe 2 or 3 times at most, but I would say 2 considering that Garo even before the increase was tagging Ripper and thought Ripper couldn't touch him, and was reacting to Ripper's attacks while his back was literally turned to Ripper. Like, Ripper straight up goes in for an attack on Tario, Garo didn't know he was going to attack Tario. He sees the blade passing his side, he reacts, and he tosses Ripper away. That's pretty impressive. And I would definitely say that he was faster than Ripper considerably, even in the first battle. And then Garo doesn't just completely blitz Ripper after this increase. So 1.4 times 2 is 2.8 times light speed now. Garo then fights Rover, but there isn't really any indication of him getting faster here, more so just stronger and more resistant to heat. But again, strength and speed usually go hand in hand in One Punch Man, so I will apply the 50% boost, giving this Garo speed that is 4.2 times faster than light. Garo then fights Orochi, where he is once again stated to be getting faster. Another 50% boost makes him 6.3 times faster than light now. And then he gets bodied and heals. Another 50% increase, making him now 9.5 times faster than light. Again, Zenkais and all that. This is when he is awake, however. At first he was fighting Nerfed when he was asleep. That version wouldn't scale to this speed, but after Darkshine wakes him up with a good wail, Garo should be 9.5 times faster than light. Darkshine then notes that Garo keeps getting faster and faster, so much so that in tandem with his increasing strength, it starts to terrify him, and Garo feels like there's a whole horde of martial artists pounding on him. Before, Darkshine was easily matching Garo's speed, but now Garo begins to completely overwhelm him in that department, landing dozens of attacks while Darkshine just defends himself. I would say at least a 2 times boost is in order here, as Darkshine isn't getting blitzed, and he's also starting to become mentally nerfed, so he looks less impressive because of that. So I don't think that a 5 times boost is appropriate here, but Garo is getting much faster, and again, he feels like a whole horde of martial artists to Darkshine, so a 2 times boost it is. 9.5 times 2 equals 19 times faster than light now for Spiral Garo. Garo then monsterizes, which is usually an enormous speed increase over a one-shot tier and over a blitz tier. However, Garo was already monsterized before this point. In his spiral form, he was already partially monsterized, so I will grant him half of a speed blitz here, which would be 2.5 times, making initial monster Garo 47.5 times faster than light. Garo is sleeping here, but because his technique here is just as good, if not better than Spiral Garo's, and for various other reasons I've listed in other videos as well, I do not think that the sleep was much of a nerf here. Garo then masters the Awakening Breath and the Exploding Heart Release Fist, both of which are big buffs, but the Heart Fist specifically only boosts power, as we see Bang is keeping up with him just as well as before he started using the Heart Release Fist, and it is also just stated to be an explosive increase in power, not speed. The Awakening Breath, however, is stated to draw the body's full potential. It is unclear how much of a boost it really is, but Garo in base was contending evenly with Very Fatigued Bomb, whereas with the Awakening Breath, he could almost match the speed of full power Awakening Breath Bang. So I think a 2 times boost at least should be granted, making this Garo 95 times faster than light. He then wakes up, but again, I don't think he received a speed increase here, as I've went over in videos in the past. For a very brief explanation, Garo was already utilizing 2 martial arts that draw out the very best his body can muster, so him waking up shouldn't really increase his power or speed, as his body was already working at maximum capacity possible, and actually above maximum capacity even. So yeah, I don't think Garo received much of a speed boost here. And this Garo is able to fight Flashy Flash competitively, so ding ding ding, we got Flash's speed. Now, I know there was quite a bit of headcanon involved here, but I don't really know how else you would go about getting the speed here. You can input your own multiplier values and get your own results if you want, but yeah, around 95 times the speed of light is where Flashy Flash should scale. Then if you want to be really generous, you could give him a speed blitz multiplier for the Flashy Slash. So if you think that the Flashy Slash is a full speed blitz above Flash's regular speed, that would make Flash a whopping 470 times faster than light. Yeah, that statement about Flashy being faster than light on one of the volume covers, yeah, I think that's correct, you know, I think he's just slightly faster than light probably. And yeah, around 100 to 500 times faster than light is where I believe Flashy Flash should scale. So compared to Poseidon, yeah, it's not looking too hot. You have to really lowball Poseidon to make him lose here. I will say both fighters suppress their speed at the start, so maybe if Poseidon nerfs himself more than Flash does, and we take the lowest possible interpretations for Poseidon, maybe then Flashy Flash could get a cheap win off. But if Poseidon at all takes him seriously at any point, it's over. I imagine the fight starting with Flash running in and immediately getting turned into a shish kebab if we highball Poseidon's speed. And if we don't highball his speed, then I could see the fight being pretty competitive until Poseidon gets serious and breaks out the 40-day flood. At which point, it would be the end, unless you want to really not be generous to Poseidon and say he's only 10 times the speed of light, which I don't believe is accurate. And without Voland, it just gets worse for our favorite Sparkle Man, unfortunately. But yeah, that has been it for me today. I hope you enjoyed. I know it was a bit messier than usual, but I hope it was watchable anyway. I had a lot of fun with it. Just coming up with numbers is really fun, what can I say? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And yeah, I'm very eager to do more Record of Ragnarok content, because it is a series that I've been enjoying a ton recently. And I do plan to do quite a few Record of Ragnarok topics in the near future, such as ranking the gods like I said before, and also what if Hades and Poseidon swapped their opponents. I think that would be really fun to talk about, and a bunch of other matchups too. So yeah, comment down below what you would like to see. And with nothing else to say, I wish you a good rest of the day. Goodbye.